Here we go. Oh, hi everyone. Looks like the numbers all bang up. How are you doing, Todd?
I'm doing pretty well. How about
I'm doing
yourself,
pretty
Eric?
well. I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing. Oh, look, we can see lots of names. So we'll probably just let everyone join for a minute before we start. Oh goodness me, there's lots of names. We've got Cindy, Clive. We've got 1,000 names, so I can't read everyone's names out. So that's amazing. So yeah, thank you
All
everyone
right.
for turning up. Um, Now, for those who haven't been on a Zoom meeting before, like you can, if you've got any questions or there's two sort of options. There's Q&A. So if there's questions that you want to ask Todd or me, and actually Steve is hidden in the background as well. So just ask us any questions, and we'll mostly answer them at the. I'm pretty sure we'll answer them all at the end. And then there's also the chat box, and the chat's slightly different to the questions. So that's when you want to chat between yourselves, but we'll only generally look or answer the ones that are in the questions. Oh, hello from Kansas. Cool. So I reckon we can start. So what should we do? Kate, do you want to share the screen, or is it already shared? I don't know if Kate's sharing the screen or not. Do you think she is? Oh yeah, there she is. Cool. Perfect. All right. So, oh, it's gone again. Have you got it, Todd? There it is. Perfect.
Yeah, it's coming up.
There should be one screen before that, shouldn't there? I know. I think that's the beginning one.
Intro slide.
Okay, so there we go. Da-da-da-da-da. All right. So welcome everyone to today's webinar. It's basically going to be about how we're using the miHealth to correct people's cellular terrain. We've got a lot of new material, which is particularly interesting on the whole virus, exosome, and terrain theory, and how you can apply that to basically using the miHealth to help with energetic terrains and boost immunity and reduce stress. So for those of you, because obviously there's a lot of people on here, and some of you are familiar with miHealth and some of you aren't. So we're just going to do sort of a 5-minute overview of what the miHealth is before we really dive into a lot of original material, which is pretty exciting. So firstly, the miHealth, the miHealth's been featured on the Doctor's Show. It won the best healing device of the year with Can magazine in Britain. There's all sorts of celebrities that use it, like Dave Asprey, Ben Greenfield, and Steve Sinatra. Actually, in the Hungarian Olympic team, there's another actually Olympic. I can't remember. Yeah, so there was the gold medalist for 100 meters in England used it. A whole bunch of football teams use it, etc., etc. Now you might wonder why. Well, it's basically because I think you can go to the next slide, Kate. But basically, 88% see. Oh, it's probably the slide after that. There we go. Yeah, so 88%. We ran a 251 person study that's in Holland back, I think it's eight years ago now, and 88% of people saw improvements when they used it for the first time, and then when they came back for their second time, we got a pretty record-breaking 93% of people saw improvements in their symptoms. And this was actually a study across all sorts of conditions, so it wasn't just for pain or flexibility. It was just normal people coming to their practitioners from all sorts of symptoms, and that was basically the average improvement. And you can see that study on the Nest Health site. Now, I'll just give a bit of a backstory to this. There's no pun intended there. So you can see this lovely picture of our spine here. So you can see that we fractured it. If you look towards the sort of the middle at the bottom, we basically fell ice climbing off Ben Nevis, fractured our spine when we were 21, and ignoring our whole health story for a minute, basically we were in a lot of back pain for years and years and years. And after Nest was formed, so that the first part of Nest was the infoceuticals and what used to be called Nest Professional, which is now the Bioenergetic Wellness System. We ended up with this. We ended up with this system with all the infoceuticals that were really, really good at unpeeling the sort of the onion layers of to get to the root cause and trigger healing responses. But one thing that really bothered, obviously was still bothering me, is that we were in a lot of back pain, and so we basically thought that was it was a missing part of the overall health picture, and so we wanted to make a device that could basically help people with pain, and yeah, basically, so that's why we started making it. And the other part we also wanted to do, so if someone is particularly injured, or they're in a lot of, well, if they're in a lot of pain, they've got a lot of scar tissue, an infoceutical is not such a physical intervention. It's more direct into the control system, and then it basically works itself over time. But by using a device, you can basically access scar tissue and pain more directly. And more importantly, your body field, it's both information and it's energy. And so by using a miHealth, you can basically unblock all the energy channels in your body. So cut a long story short, that was why we set out to make it. And what we also thought about that is, we were looking at all these different sorts of technologies and ways that you can help people with their physical bodies. And we basically there's a number of technologies. So Kate will be the next slide. So then we had PMF, which stands for pulsed electromagnetic frequency. We have TENS, which is then we basically had TENS with biofeedback, and then we had global scaling, and then corrective information. So I'll just go through each of those. So PMF, there's a bunch of sort of PMF mats out in the world, and with PMF mats, you basically lie on a mat, and your body will be basically exposed to a pulsed magnetic field that goes right through your body. The only thing with that is your body over time will basically get used to that increased magnetic field, and so it doesn't actually have an effect locally. And so basically what we thought is it's better if you do it in a smaller device. So you basically just want to target the tissues that actually need that PMF field, because if you target everything, it's a little bit like actually, I just got out of the hyperbaric chamber, but if you lived in a hyperbaric chamber and you were always had high amounts of oxygen, your body would produce less red blood cells, because your body adapts to it. And it's the same with PMF. Like if you were always exposed to PMF, your body would get used to the excess energy. So it's generally better to have a smaller amount and do it locally. And then the other reason we also actually use PMF within it is so that we could broadcast information into the body, which we'll get into. The second part is the conventional way that people use electrostim to get rid of pain is through a TENS device. Now, a TENS device is pretty basic in the sense that it just puts in it basically just puts in I think it's a square wave. It just puts in a square wave at a set frequency, and the idea is if you give enough electrical stimulation, you basically just block the nerves, and then you can't feel anything. The problem with that is the body basically gets used to it. So if you use a TENS device for pain, it generally only works to a certain degree, and then it generally just stops working. Basically because the body unfortunately has got used to it. So the way around that is you need to basically combine the signal. You combine a TENS signal with biofeedback, so that you can continuously adapt the signal. So well, I've got miHealth up here. So we've got our two electrodes here. So within the circuitry in here, it's basically continually reading the response that's actually happening within the skin. And while it's reading that response, it actually changes the current, it changes the signal that's going into you. And therefore, your body can never quite get used to it. And it has a double effect. One, it helps reduce pain, but the second effect is it basically increases the communication between device, that part of your body, and the brain. Because one of the things that happens in any chronic condition, literally really the definition of a chronic condition or an organ or a part of the body that's going wrong, is that the body can't actually remember. It basically can't remember it, or it isn't remembering to go and heal or restore that part of the body, because ultimately every part of the body really does have the resources, or your overall body does have the resources to heal a certain part of the body. But if you don't stimulate it, if you basically don't stimulate it, the brain will forget. And so you basically, by using biofeedback with TENS, it's giving this sort of continual reminder, and then the body ends up regenerating in that part of the body. Now the other side to this is TENS. Okay, that's fine. It's at these set frequencies, and actually the Russians, which I didn't put on this slide, the Russians had a device called the Skinar, which also had all of these. Actually, it wasn't even set frequencies. You could basically vary all the frequencies. But they were never tuned. They were never tuned to be harmonious to the body, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But if you take something like a cell phone, it's absolutely not harmonious to the body. However, there are certain frequencies that'll basically help, that are basically in resonance with different organs and different functions of the body. So instead of a 10 signal, we would basically use all these different frequencies that we'd mapped to all these different functions and parts of the body, so that they are in resonance. And then the fourth part, which is sort of the cherry on top, is we took the idea of infoceuticals. Ultimately, infoceuticals are information, and you can put information into the body electrically. So we basically just added the information in onto the signal, and therefore you just use the signal to carry in that information, and then it basically stimulates the body to go towards that optimal blueprint. Now, be the next slide though. So there's a few main ways you can use it. One is just this pretty simple idea. So if you have the bioenergetic wellness system, or you've been scanned by your practitioner, there's a screen there called the energetic rejuvenators, and you can see 70 different ERs there. And that's basically telling you where these main energy blockages are. So, it's pretty simple. You do a scan, and then you can just go in and then literally just use the miHealth on broadcast mode, or you can even use it on the on-body mode, but mainly people use it on broadcast mode to help unblock the energy channels. And then the second way you can use it is really just from a functional wellness point of view. So, so if you actually want to get to the root cause of things, you might use the energetic rejuvenators. But if you simply had an allergy, you might want to use the food one. If you want to help your digestion, use the digestion one. There's certain functions that you can just use because you want to use them. Or if you're traveling in a plane, you can put it on the travel mode, and that'll help correct for all the changes that are going through in Earth's magnetic field and the extra ultraviolet and EMF and X-rays, etc. Then the third way is literally just the real-time symptomatic support. Now, with that, all that really means is, so if my knee hurts, if I suddenly injured my knee, I'm not really going to care about the ERs at that particular moment. You're literally just going to want to help your knee. So that's mainly used in on-body mode, and you just literally go in where the pain is. So if you have a headache, you would just put it on the headache function, put it on your head and use it. And then the fourth, which is more exciting, is more sort of advanced therapeutic techniques, which generally done with the guidance of your practitioner, which we're going to get into more of those exciting techniques, because all of these other ones are generally in videos in the portal in training, so we don't really need to cover them in a webinar today. So we'll get into the fourth, but before that, we've got a little sort of bit of bioenergetic theory surprise for you. So Kate, will be the next slide. I'll have a sip of tea. So this is a brand new concept in the NES world, and it's basically, well, we're calling this article "The Secret Life of the Virus, Exosome, and Cellular Terrain." Now, basically, viruses are created by the cell, and they literally have no life of their own, and they are in essence a messenger across the population that communicate really important information about the environment, so cells can adapt to a potential threat or new environment. Now, in doing so, in most cases, they have the effect of cleaning up cellular terrain, and which basically strengthens both the immune system and the organs affected. I'll just move this around. Kate, I'm reading off a thing, so I can't see the slides at all. So you'll just have to change them while I'm talking. But in doing so, they basically. Now you might be wondering, but aren't all viruses bad? Well, actually, no. There's actually 380 trillion viruses in the human virome at any one time, and they're all essential to the cellular life cycle. So in fact, if you eradicated the human virome and the RNA communication system, you would get, well, basically you would die ultimately, which is unfortunately the case when people take antivirals, which obviously happened back in the 80s and 90s with AIDS. People were given huge amounts of antivirals that basically, the reason what went wrong there is that it was basically interacting with the RNA transcription mechanism, and then basically leading to cellular death. So you don't really want antivirals. Anyway, there have been studies that have shown that there's no difference between a virus and an exosome. Now, exosomes are getting pretty popular in stem cell circles. Basically, instead of injecting people with stem cells, these days they're also just injecting them with exosomes with really similar results that occur just to using stem cells. And if you like, you can see that as a form of natural genetic engineering and an example of how RNA or a viral particle can upgrade the health and terrain of the cell. Now, in naturopathy, sorry, I can't pronounce the word. In naturopathy, if you fast, I'm actually fasting now because I might as well tell everyone, but I was throwing up earlier. So I haven't actually eaten anything in 24 hours. So hence I'm a little not quite on my best in this webinar, but all good. So in naturopathy, if you fast, at some point the body creates flu-like symptoms to reverse disease, and when you give the body a chance to detoxify and heal, it ends up excreting toxins, including RNA, which create flu-like symptoms. It's a little bit similar, all of that sweat and high temperatures expel toxins from the body. Now, if you expose yourself to environmental toxins, so for instance, if you're under a lot of respiratory distress caused by, for instance, like inhaled toxic smoke or 5G, etc., your lung cells are going to basically respond to that environmental stress by trying to rid itself of the toxin. And as part of that, it also produces actually generally exosomes, which contain RNA messages to communicate to other cells, along with sneezing it out where others can catch it. And this often in holistic health, people, well, there used to be these two great sort of a virus theory and then a terrain theory. This really is where they actually marry together, and no one's really put that out before. But basically, when your terrain is bad, the body actually, or your cells will actually put out RNA as a signaling mechanism to both your own cells, but also, of course, you can cough it up, and then other people can get that message. It doesn't actually necessarily mean that message is bad, because what happens when someone else catches a flu or catches a lung issue, well, basically they'll get that RNA message. Their lung tissue then basically it starts adapting to as though that environmental threat is going to happen, and you get all of your mucus and flu type symptoms. But ultimately the body and the terrain is generally strengthened from that, unless of course their system is sort of overthink. So which you might be asking, therefore, why do some people die from the flu, or why do some people die of corona, etc. Well, basically the people at most risk, they're over 70, they have at least one other condition, they're on medication. And with these people, when the body tries to adapt by increasing metabolic excretion, if the terrain is too toxic, the body's systems become overburdened, and it becomes like the straw that broke the camel's back. In other words, it was their toxic terrain from medications and lifestyle that was the cause, not the virus. And so pre-existing conditions, age, and medications were all ignored in these death certificates, with the blame being put solely on the virus. And really the way to help people with pre-existing conditions have much better immunity, which is really the purpose of the webinar, is to basically help them clean up their cellular terrain. And we're going to get into how the miHealth can help you do that in a minute. And we're also going to try and do a live demo, which is going to be quite interesting, which we haven't done before. Now, of course, that isn't to say, just if people have questions, that there aren't some viruses that are truly bad, like Ebola. However, fortunately, viruses that are highly infectious tend to be relatively innocuous with low death rates, like the flu and common cold. And basically, those that are the most deadly are unfortunately incredibly hard to catch. So that's the good side of it. Now, you might be thinking, what on earth is the main component of the cellular terrain? Or probably you're not thinking that because you're quite familiar with NEST and bioenergetics, but it's structured water. Now, 99% of the molecules in your body are basically hydrogen and oxygen in the format of H2O, not by weight, just by number of molecules. By weight, it's 80%, but by amount of molecules, it's 99%. Now, the gel-like water in the cell, that's also basically surrounds your DNA, along with providing instructions to your DNA to encode for RNA, including RNA. And the bioinformation that's contained within the structured water in your cell is completely key to having a healthy cell, and in turn contributes directly to the lifestyle of the viruses and exomes in your body and beyond. Now, the cellular water structure, it can be affected in all sorts of ways by chemical, emotional, even other viruses or exomes, all of which you want to keep to a minimum. And I won't go too much into 5G, but only in the mention of one of the strongest energetic toxins to be wary of is non-native EMF. Obviously, there's a particularly strong form of EMF, which is 5G, and that's basically because we've gone from a few low gigahertz, and 5G's up at 60 gigahertz, and we have to have more masts because it only travels a shorter distance. So we're basically being exposed to more. Depending where we all live, but it looks like over time we're all going to be exposed to more EMF. Now, there's been some interesting experiments with that. So basically, non-native EMFs, they destroy water structure and therefore damage the cellular terrain. I haven't got a picture of this, but basically, experiments show that if you hold a cell phone up next to structured water, it loses its gel-like properties. Basically, the structure starts disappearing. And so if you can see that in a direct experiment, just literally with structured water, you can imagine what that must be doing to the cellular water, or basically in your body, or let's say your brain tissue when you're making a cell phone call. And you can also imagine how, through affecting your terrain, it's therefore interfering with your body's sensible or correct RNA replication system and basically your own communication system. So it's super, super important that this whole idea of the terrain, you know, as I say, people think detox and terrain is one thing, and immunity and viruses are another sort of philosophy, but they're not. They're completely and utterly interrelated. And it's basically, you know, really, really important to basically, you want to build up that water structure of your cellular terrain. And you might, you know, wondering why. Well, right at the beginning, we were talking about harmonious frequencies. And I say there's frequencies and non-native EMF that is really harmful to structure. Fortunately, thank goodness, there are actually frequencies that are basically harmonious and are good and help to build up water structure. And that's really at the key, or it's really at the core of what's going on with miHealth, is we basically put in the positive information, like put in the positive information, and we've put that on harmonious frequencies. So, you know, when you're putting it on different parts of the body, what's happening underneath the skin, as well as it communicating to your body's autonomic nervous system to remind different parts of the body that they should be well. It's also helping to basically build up water structure in the cells that are, you know, basically directly under the electrodes. And as I say, you can use it in off body with the PMF mode, and that's more of just a broadcasting the information effect, which, you know, a lot of people swear by. I also personally use it a lot with the electrodes because it's able to more directly build up the structure. It's also able to donate more electrons from the device into tissue, which basically brings up the energy level across the cell membrane. So without further ado, I'm gonna move to Todd soon, and hopefully you can see in the panels, I'm going to use David as a demonstrator, and we're basically going to look at how we can affect different terrains in your body using the miHealth. So without further ado, it's what?
We have a couple slides on just emotional immunity and energetic immunity. If you want to pop back to the slideshow before we talk about those.
Yeah. No, this was this was where we transitioned over, but which is all good. I'm not worried about these two slides.
Okay, that's fine. Pop over. So yeah, we're looking to really find the maintenance of our emotional immunity, and the proper the maintenance of this is, or the main focus of this is going to be the proper maintenance of and optimization of both energy and information inside of the human body field. So we're going to use the miHealth in a way that we can increase the informational flow throughout the body field. We can provide some foundational supports if we would like, and then we can actually kickstart your emotional immunity by utilizing the dermatomes of the body to activate the energetic terrains. So we have this energetic terrain theory. We have an entire energetic terrain screen inside of the BWS scan that looks at these healing messages, all the different messages that help to support these different terrains throughout the body. And we've actually matched all of the information of these energetic terrains to the various dermatomes. And those dermatomes are actually the parts of the skin that match to different nerve endings throughout the spine and connect to various different organs and things like that. The dermatomes are actually what people are using when they do any type of reflexology. So they're utilizing these reflex zones or dermatomes to support various different parts of the body through the dermis of the skin itself. And the reason that actually works is the dermis and the nervous system actually formed embryologically from the same germ layer. So they have been intrinsically tied since conception itself. And that's how we're able to access the nervous system through the dermis. So yeah, we can get David in here and start kickstarting our emotional immunity. So it's always nice to start off with matrix carrier. You can if you would like to, Harry, but you don't have to. That's just one of our settings that helps the body field with its informational processing. So if you're going to give it a set of information inside of a set protocol, maybe various different functions, you want to make sure that the human body field is able to utilize that information as best as it can and as optimal as it can.
David,
So
you're going to be a demo now.
it's always nice to start off with a little bit of matrix carrier, and then you can switch over into building up some kind of foundation.
Oh, wait, we have to take it off the green screen.
Hi.
Hi, David. How are you? Thanks for being our model today.
He's being the model, yeah. Turn around. Turn around. All right, sorry, Todd, carry on.
Yeah. So once you've increased the information and done any foundational support that you may want to do, whether that's, aligning somebody's energy, maybe giving them some physical rejuvenation, or maybe even just a little inner peace. Maybe somebody comes into your office, or maybe you are just a little scattered and you want to calm them down a little bit. You can do some of those foundational functions. But then when you're ready to really kickstart somebody's emotional immunity and really get the activation of these energetic terrains inside of the human body field, you're going to want to use either the biocell function or the immune ETs function within inside of the miHealth. So as you can hear and see, Harry is beginning to do an on-body treatment for David here. And what setting are you using there, Harry?
Well, I'm using general rejuvenation, but I could switch it to a biocell.
Okay, so yeah, we're doing some just general foundational support here, going up and down the spine in what we like to call a spinal scrub. Really activating all those pathways from the brain throughout the whole peripheral nervous system, activating all those energy centers.
Oh, you can only see the top off. I can move the camera down. How about that? I can't see the PowerPoint, by the way. It disappeared.
You're probably pretty good there with our foundational support, and we'll move on to either biocell or immune ETs. That's up to you, Harry.
All right, we'll do biocell.
And you can do that on different parts of the body. So we have an energetic terrain called BSV. That does stand for broad spectrum virus. We're not necessarily saying that it's energetically matched to the pathogens themselves, but just various tissues that do relate to various different.
Well, that's an important concept that I don't think we've explained in this before. So, see, in the past, everyone thought ETs were directly correlated to viruses, bacteria, funguses, etc. But it's not. It's basically correlated to the actual terrain, or to the actual tissue that belongs in certain parts of the body. And when you're basically, if your terrain is off, then they're more likely to have those types of bugs flourish. So basically, what we're doing here, which is the zone for which one did you just mention?
So that would be ET5 for BSV, as well as the cold and flu immunity terrain, are both from C1 to T4. So that whole area from the neck to the mid-back that you were just doing would be the dermatological zone matching to that energetic terrain.
Are you able to pull up the slide of the dermatones? Kate, the slides disappeared.
Slide 22 and 23, Kate. Pull that up.
I'm getting that right now. Hold just 1 second.
But basically have dermatones that go around the body, coming out of the spine.
Yeah, they do wrap all the way down. You could go all the way down the arms, but it's not necessary. Depending on how much time you have with either your client or yourself, if you have your own personal miHealth.
Okay, is the dermatome slide around? Because otherwise it doesn't make much sense.
We could showcase the immune ET2 one, which is the lower thoracic, so T1 to the sacrum. That would be the one that actually correlates with the wonderful thing that has taken the world by storm.
There we go. Now we can actually see it.
So this is our cold and flu immunity terrain. It matches with the dermatome of C1 through T4. And as you can see, it wraps all the way up to the
C1 to
opposite
T4.
there, the entire cervical structures down around the arms and the top part of the chest. It does wrap all the way down around to the front of the body, to the sternum. And we're doing a variety of things here. We're stimulating not only the corrective information for these different dermatomes and the different energetic terrains, but we're also, like Harry said, donating this exogenous electrons to the system. So these are extra electrons that we can use for the healing process. And when we're dealing with any type of pathogen, they need to be able to get inside of our cells. And one of the main ways they do that is through depolarization, which means that they're stealing the electrons from our cell membranes so that they don't have the energy to function properly. And then these microbes can make their way into the cells. So you're actually able to repolarize these cell membranes by doing the on-body treatment that Harry is providing for David, as you can see. So,
I might explain about like hot spots. So, for instance, if while you're going over an area, I'm just gonna have to turn it up, David, so it hurts a bit. He doesn't mind. He's a guinea pig. So you can see as we go over, I'm just broadly going over these areas. I don't know how well it comes out up on the green screen, but you can see that's more red. Does that come up? I think it probably comes up. So where you get particular hot spots, we know that's really the area to go back and treat. And you'll also find, like, if you're tuned to it, it's also stickier wherever you get a red patch. So it basically drags more. And that's because your skin's magnetic quality increases wherever there's a basically increases wherever the your cell membrane potential is lower. And as Todd was just saying, you end up putting more electron donors in there, so you build up the cell the electrical potential in the cells over that area, and that helps to basically trigger a response back in that body. Yeah, you see he's kind of these nice red patches here.
can we show David again, Kate?
Oh, yeah. I don't know what people can see on the other end. Yeah, so he's got these nice red patches. There's a particular lovely red patch. So, in fact, that's so nice and red, we'll actually we'll just give it a set treatment. Now, it'll be boring for everyone, so we won't, but in theory, I would hold that there for two minutes, and then we would move on. So, you can either keep dragging for an area, or so if you find a particular area and he screams, you can always do it longer and hopefully he screams more. All right, that'll do. No, you haven't finished.
Oh.
So we got one more. We could do the one that matches to all three of our immune terrains, as well as the general terrain, which is ET15. So that dermatome would be all the way from T1 down to the sacrum area. So really the whole lower back area you can support with, again, immune ETs or BioCell to jumpstart this energetic terrain activation.
Cool. Where do you want it? Sorry, I didn't hear that bit. Which area, Todd?
T1 down to the sacrum, so the lower back.
Okay. Not. I don't think people. You could stand up. How about that? There, that's good. All right. So again, and again, for those that you don't, you literally turn it up, and it shouldn't be painful. It should be to where you feel it. Do you feel it?
Mm-hmm.
Too much?
No.
No, okay. Yeah, so that's making a nice sound. And you can hear the frequencies change. That's basically we're changing basically we're just changing the frequency in the device as it's going along.
Some of our settings have multiple carrier waves.
Let's see if we can find any more red spots for you. You've just got chair marks. I'm not sure what a chair mark means. Do you think that's a serious disease, Todd? How do we analyze a chair mark?
Oh, we may have to.
Well, no, look, no. See, what's interesting? I don't know how well this comes across on the camera, but that area is more red, strangely in line with the upper bit there. So you might have some. Now that's reflective of well, that's basically the same dermatome zone as a liver, as his liver around there. So we could just treat all the way around. So you could do a little slow spin. See, with a dermatome, we didn't really. It's all right. They can't see your face.
Let's go to my arm for you.
Yeah, keep going. But basically, with the dermatomes, you go right around the body, and actually, you can see he's got a red mark going all the way around. So his digestion's probably not too happy, but he does like his sugar, I can tell you for free. There we go. So that's actually how you do a whole dermatome. You go all the way around, and again, there's extra red bits like there is here. You can spend a bit longer on it. And what you're generally feeling for is when it stops going sticky. So you drag it through, bolts stick, and then it glides more easily again. So you just keep going there till it gets more glidey, or if it's particularly pointing like that point again, we can just leave it on for a couple of minutes and then it will shift away. But generally the idea is, you're always looking for, the Russians call them asymmetries, but we're basically looking, the body basically tells us where it's inflamed, and so you just go directly to those places where the body's inflamed, and then you help resolve the asymmetries, and the body generally does the rest. All right, what's the next slide then? Do you need more of David, or is he done?
No, he's pretty good.
You're good. You'll let off, David.
Hi.
I've never done this before.
So that's an example of a very quick energetic terrain boost that you can do, in the comfort of your own home, just like Harry did with David, or with a practitioner as well. So if we can move on to the next slide there, we can talk about a couple ways that you can also increase immunity with the miHealth device. One of them will be a little bit more of an advanced technique that I'll want you to contact your practitioner about, and we have training that teaches them on how to coach you around the implementation of the vagal biofeedback that we will talk about. And then we also have some lymphatic drainage techniques, which even if you don't have a miHealth device, you are able to follow right along with. So why don't we go to the next slide as well? So yeah, we're really looking to cleanse the brain with this lymphatic technique. So as you can see, the lymphatic system to the right here, there's all of these different nodes throughout the body, and there's a cluster of them right underneath the neck there that comes down towards the center of the body and down around towards the armpits there. So that is where we are going to focus our attention. You can actually take out your miHealth device and put it on the Immune ET's function and actually use the small electrodes that are on the top of the device to actually do the manual lymphatic drainage movement. But if you don't have a miHealth device, you can just use your thumb to do the same exact thing. So why don't we pop off the slide share, Kate, and show me so I can have everybody follow along with me. right, everybody. Hello. I'm going to pull up immune ETs here. So I'm actually going to unbutton my first button here, just to give myself a little bit more access to the neck here. So we have this pathway right from our jaw right here, all the way to the tip of the chin, right underneath our jaw right there. And then we also have from the top of the chest right here, all the way up this line, if you could see my fingers. So what you want to do is you want to make sure all those lymphatic channels that I just described are open. So we're going to start at the bottom here, and we're going to press, and we're going to go all the way up. We can do this with our fingers, and we'll switch to the miHealth in a second. So you can go all the way up into the corner of your jaw right there. Nice pressure, and then forward to the tip of your chin. So that's going to make sure that all of those lymph nodes are open, and that when we push them in the opposite direction, all those little channels are open and that lymphatic fluid can drain out. This can detoxify the entire brain, in the entire oral cavity, nasal cavity, everything is draining through that lymphatic system. And of course, this is our first line of defense. As you see, everybody's wearing masks, trying to protect themselves and protecting others from inhaling these things, breathing these things, eating these things. So we want to support the immune system and the lymphatic system in this area. So we'll take out our miHealths, and you can just use your thumb just like I did inside of my neck and follow right along, but we're going to go the opposite way. So we're going to start at the chin, and then we're going to go all the way back to the neck and then down to the front of the throat there. So I'm going to set mine on body because I want to use these tiny little electrodes up at the top. So you saw Harry using the large ones on the back, but we actually have these little tiny ones up at the top that actually curve right around the top of the device. They're really handy to get inside of little nooks and crannies, like this little channel up inside of your jaw there and down your neck. So that's really the motion that we're going to do. I'm going to turn it on. You might want to place it inside of your hand and find a good level that you can tolerate before you place it on the neck. So whatever you can tolerate on the hand, you might be a little bit less on the neck, especially the front of the neck, because it is a little bit more of a sensitive tissue. So you want to maybe tone it down 5 or 10% from whatever was good on your hand, and then you can start by placing that corner at the tip of your chin, going all the way back, tracing. Just a little pivot with that corner there. And I'm getting a nice little spasm there. Has some asymmetries. Get lit up, and then we'll go and do the other side. You should have these nice muscles there that you can just glide right along with. And you can do that 3 times. If you'd like to, you can combine this with any sort of lymphatic activating essential oils or things like that, maybe even topical ES1, which is our lymphatic star as well. You can do that topically and then apply the miHealth to it, help drive all of those oils into the skin there. Do one more. As you can see, I got some decent amount of redness showing. And I've really begun to activate that whole area. At the same time, I'm using immune ETs on the miHealth. So I'm getting all of the corrective information that's helping me to activate those cellular terrains in this area of the body, as well as manually helping to flush out those toxins from the brain and from the entire cervical structures. And that can be really important because our cervical structures really hold the seat of our autonomic nervous system that communicates everything from our brain to the rest of our body. So it's a very crucial point of the body that we really want to take care of. So that's our lymphatic massage technique that you can do with or without a miHealth device. And then we also have the vagal biofeedback. So if Kate, you can pull up our slideshow again for us. So you really want to contact your practitioner to see if this is right for you because and go back to, there you go. Because, you know, there are some people that this type of support is not correct for. Various types of heart conditions may be contraindicated. Although using our device versus a regular TENS unit, I find to be a much different clinical experience with a lot less side effects. This is mainly because of that biofeedback aspect that we talked about, where the device is meeting the nervous system every step of the way. Harry talked about how it refines its frequencies based off of the resistance of the skin and the skin's response to the stimuli. I like to think of that like a tango with the nervous system. It's meeting it every step of the way and actually teaching it what it's doing as well. That's why they call it biofeedback, is we're actually allowing the nervous system to see what it's doing, because otherwise it's just out there breakdancing, I like to say. It doesn't really know if its arm was off to the side a little bit, because no one else knows the routine, and it's just going about its day, and it does the same thing over and over again. And sometimes it doesn't realize that it could come and clean up that process. But then when you come in tango with the nervous system, it allows it to realize what it's doing, because the moment it makes a mistake, you're going to step on somebody's foot or bang your partner's knee or something like that, and you get that instant feedback and can course correct. So we're able to donate all of this energy, help to repolarize cell membranes, and then provide this biofeedback as well as corrective information. So to be able to do that all with the vagus nerve is something that could be pretty profound for immunity as a whole, and a host of other things as well. The vagus nerve, they really call it the wandering nerve. We could have a whole presentation, as we actually have a whole module inside of the Energy for Life course, all on the vagus nerve and its role inside of health. So you're actually able to use the miHealth device to do a transcutaneous stimulation of the vagus nerve, and you're actually able to do this while the PMF is happening at the same time. We have all of the feedback wrapped in there, so it's a lot more than just regular vagus nerve stimulation. Playing with some words here like vagal magnetic feedback, you can actually hook up some external electrodes to the device, and if we can pop back to MeCade, stop the share for just a second. Give you guys a little example. I won't be able to put these in because of my headphones completely, but I'll literally show you the concept. And if you're interested, you can go to your practitioner to learn how to exactly do this type of treatment. But we have these little tiny electrodes, clips. And I can actually take these and attach them to what's known as the tragus, which is this little tiny part of the ear. Many people actually get this pierced right here. In some circles, I actually say that can help with headaches and things like that because of its activation with the vagus nerve. I'm not too sure about that, but it's something that is very common. So that's that tragus right there. And then if I were to just tell you to put your finger in your ear, you'd probably just put it in the big part down the bottom. And that's what you call the concha. So you want to attach a positive and negative electrode to the tragus and the concha of a single ear. I won't be able to fully do it right here with my headphones in, but you would attach both of those electrodes and you would have a positive and negative on each side. And you can actually stimulate the vagus nerve because it actually innervates directly inside of the ear in the tragus and the concha. Everybody's ears are different, so of course the nerves innervate in those different spots uniquely in different people. So having the biofeedback qualities and being able to find those little sticky spots by just wiggling around those clips inside of the ears actually makes it easier to find your vagus and know that the work that you're doing is actually on the nerve that you're trying to stimulate. And then of course you're doing biofeedback, so you're not just coming in like an electrical jackhammer that a regular TENS unit can kind of be when you're trying to stimulate a nerve by going exactly where it innervates inside of the outer dermis there. So we don't want very high power. You would do this very, very low power, under 10% of the device. You just want a slight little bit of stimulation, that corrective information. And during times like these, you can use the setting immunities to do a full body, you know, that wandering nerve goes through the entire thing, a full body emotional immunity kind of boost and immune activation or energetic terrain activation should say, by doing this directly into the vagus nerve. And then of course, our PMF is still running when you're running on body as well. So you could actually throw it in your back pocket and stimulate that entire dermatological area that Harry just worked on with David, so that you can even get a twofold effect. You get kind of a point specific effect and a more decentralized effect with the about 60 centimeter field that's created from the PMF. So that is a very powerful support that you can do in times like these to support your immunity in tandem with that lymphatic massage there. So I think next up we can dive right into a little piece that I wanted to do today, because everybody's in a panic. So if you want to pull up our next slide there, Kate. Oh, and there's a picture of the concha, just so you know. You can see the concha and the tragus there. Thanks for popping back. I can go to the next one. So yeah, public service announcement. Don't panic. You know, all of this stress and all of the fear that is going on inside of this world is really going to lower our immunity. So I wanted to use the miHealths today. Even if you don't have a miHealth today, we will all use our intention to broadcast that healing energy to the unified field. So you'll be able to come along the journey with us. But we're going to use the miHealth device to bootstrap a nice little meditation that is designed to really get some brain-heart coherence, because right now we're all up in the brain, and we're all up in those deeper parts of the brain, you know, the limbic system, and we're all in fight or flight and stressed out. So we want to learn how to breathe. Something I haven't been doing while I'm talking to you guys, as you can see. So we want to breathe very deeply. You want to take out your miHealth. And you can either choose, I like charisma or love from the transformations folder for this short little meditation. The reason I like either one is because we're really focusing on the heart here and heart breathing. But we also are trying to invoke an idea of unconditional love and gratitude for everything that we have and the universe as a whole. So, and you know, normally people talk about the heart chakra in reference to love, but we actually match that with the top chakra, more that kind of unconditional love, that absolute purity. So we'll try to call on some of that from our top chakra and pull it down into our hearts and kind of hold that space, and then use that wonderful magnetic field of the heart to radiate this coherent energy outward. So if we could all put charisma on our miHealths together. We'll begin by taking some deep breaths. You want them to be as consistent as possible. And I want you to imagine these breaths going deep inside of your heart. Breathing in and out of that space. And now I want you to start to cultivate thoughts and emotions, not just one or the other, but thoughts and emotions of gratitude, of love, of your children, your spouse, your loved one, the fact that we got to wake up today on this wonderful rock, spinning around a sun that gives us life and the experiences that we all get to have with each other. And notice how the energy of your heart changes as you attune to those emotions and thoughts of gratitude and love. Focus on that energy and try to build it. Think of it like a white light. You are breathing into your heart and radiating out throughout your body, slowly moving out from the heart to the rest of your chest, continuing further down your arms, down your legs, feeling that frequency of love and gratitude. And then try to radiate this energy outward as far as you can, whether that be your household, your local town, the country that you happen to be in at the moment, the world at large, or if you can muster the will, try and radiate this energy to the universe as a whole, utilizing your intention to imprint a better state, a better frequency, a better world, and a better life for us all. Thank you. So yeah, that's just a quick little 4-minute meditation meant to rebalance your brain and your heart and bring yourself into a more coherent state so that you can make better decisions and that you can hold the space for your loved ones during this time and not get wrapped up into the fear that's being portrayed everywhere. We want to focus on what we can do for ourselves and for our loved ones and support each other during these times. So, thank you. That's me.
Thank you, Todd. That was great. That was great. So yeah, now we're basically opening up for Q&A and yeah, and chat. So well, we'll just pick some off. I'll start from the top. Yeah, with BioCell and Matrix Carrier, should they be used first with every session, and in what order? Is BioCell first and Matrix Carrier second, then the other settings to follow? So basically, the body is holographic, and what I mean by that is basically there's many paths or roads to Rome. In other words, there's many ways that you can stimulate a healing response to get you better. So actually, it doesn't matter. Basically, like with it doesn't necessarily matter if you use BioCell first or Matrix first. It all depends on the approach, which is sort of back at the beginning of our talk. We were saying, you know, you can use the scan to identify which ERs, and you can go in from that approach. You can go in from a functional wellness approach where you can just use the settings that you want, you know, or say if you've got a direct part of the body that you want to help, you can go in with that function. So yeah, there is no do this every single session. It really just depends what you're trying to achieve. If you're asking what BioCell is, so BioCell is a little bit similar to Cell Driver in the pharmaceutical range, and it's a really good one that will actually help all tissue, basically all tissue terrain. And you know, often in a protocol, you know, if you're not quite sure what to do, you can use basically BioCell in a general way, and it's also one you can always add into a protocol. So yeah, if you were well, I don't know, if you were going over the kidneys, or you're doing the kidney ER and then you wanted to give it a boost, then you could use the kidney ER, and then after that use BioCell. Matrix Carrier really has a different use, but you know, within the information systems of the body, well, maybe I won't explain it like that, but basically the Matrix, it's more looking at the interconnective tissue across the body. And there's basically this concept where the interconnective tissue because it's a gel-like substance, and this was really put forward by James Oshman in his book, Energy Medicine: A Scientific Basis. He was basically the interconnective tissue is this great network of information. It sort of works a little bit like silicon, but electrons travel really easily through interconnective tissue, and the matrix carrier was basically designed to help interconnective tissue. So again, if you've got an injured area or scar tissue, your interconnective tissue, well, that's really what scar tissue is. It's all, it's not very gel-like. It's got all stiff. It's lost the structure in the water. So, matrix carrier is something you might want to use on an injury. So, everything has a different use. What else we got? What folder is BSV in? No, so the miHealth doesn't have any ETs in it. You just use BioCell or Immune ET, and then you just go on the zones. BSV is actually ET5, I believe, in the pharmaceutical range. So yeah, you would just actually do that.
Yeah, the reason in which you use both BioCell and Immune ETs is because BioCell matches to, of course, Cell Driver, which matches to terrains and that whole terrain system. And then you also have Immune ETs being a combination of the general terrain, ET15, and ES1, which is the immune radiation and general immunity, or lymphatics radiation and general immunity terrain. So they both match to the overall terrain system itself. So then it just depends on what portion of the body and which dermatome you use it is, which area you're activating with those certain settings.
Yeah, someone's asking about, well, there's been a few questions about essential oils. How would I put it? So obviously Todd said that, but basically an essential oil or another herb or really anything. I mean, you could just put chamomile tea on your skin, to be honest, or you could use a cream or an oil. Honestly, it's probably easier to use a bit of cream or actually just make some herbal tea. But basically, when you put electricity through that basically through the carrier liquid, it's going to pick up information from the thing that you've put on the skin, and so that's going to basically draw that information deep into the body. Essential, yeah, they don't clog up the sensors, but of course they are a bit messy. I don't personally use essential oils with it, so maybe Todd can answer that. You can do it, but yeah. And someone else asked how you get it off the body. Well, just soap, basically.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do it in tandem with the stimulation. I find that it can enhance things when you combine it with some more lymphatic essential oils. But, it works perfectly fine without any, combination support as well. So.
Yeah. Someone asked, are we familiar with quantum lasers do they also address the same issues, RE energy balancing as you're describing? Yes and no. So actually when we were making the miHealth, we could have gone in a number of directions. We could have basically gone the laser photon route, or we could have gone the electrical route. Arguably, we could have done both. We ended up on the electrical route really because there was a lot more research to show how well the body responds. So with a laser, when you're using coherent light, it does help. It does stimulate pretty well cell mitochondria. It does absolutely have a good, sort of healing effect using light. But honestly, with the research that we were looking at the time, we basically the electrical pathway was stronger, so we went with that. But all these things they're all good. I know I have thought about combining the two, but we didn't anyway. But there isn't really much of a need because once you put information into the cell and you can carry it in electrically or you can carry it in with light, you've basically put information into the cell, and there's no real additional benefit of doing it in multiple ways. The clips, I don't know where you get all your amazing clips from, so I'll let you answer that, Todd. Where do you get all the peripheries?
There are resources for all of our practitioners inside of the Facebook group that have links for it. So if you're a client, you can reference your practitioner to get those, or the practitioners can reference the Facebook group. They've been posted by myself and plenty of our practitioners plenty of times, and we will be stocking them as soon as we can inside of the shop, so that they're in a central location for everyone, as well as a myriad of other things that can enhance your miHealth experience. So.
Yeah, someone asked where you place the miHealth, the way you place it during meditation. I mean, really, the best it doesn't matter that much, but in general, I would just place it over the heart, because the heart is the strongest. It basically creates the strongest field within the body. So just putting it over your heart is really the easiest place. But you could do it over your brain. I mean, it's not really a problem.
I have one for you guys. I accidentally thought I was answering a chat, so I buried this question. So I want to make sure you guys get this question. Does broadcast mode work on the dermatones as well?
It does. Well, from an informational effect, yes. So everything works with broadcast for putting in information. Yeah, it's super interesting. So, well, basically the history of it is we made it for on body, not for broadcast. And then in the R&D process, we suddenly thought, oh, well, look, we could literally disconnect the electrodes, but have the transformers that are going on inside here on at the same time. And lo and behold, it worked, and we did all this testing. And then actually in that study, in the study we did with 251 people, I think half of them were using it in broadcast, and they were getting basically same results as to on body. So yes, basically yes, but I honestly prefer using on body for things like that. When you're going over the skin, because you can find those points of asymmetry, or you could call it inflammation, and then that enables you to target in even more. But there's an awful.
Yeah, there's actually a cool aspect of the on-body therapy that is one of the reasons why I do like to prefer to use that as well when I can, of course. Of course, it's nice to throw it in the pocket and walk down the street and get some broadcast mode. But when you're able to, I do like putting it on the skin, because the very specific waveforms that we use with inside of that skenar kind of.
That doesn't work through PMF, basically. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So those actually stimulate the C-type nerve fibers, which are really the most abundant in our autonomic nervous system, and make up actually the majority of something like the vagus nerve. And other types of tendons units aren't actually strong enough to stimulate those specific types of nerve fibers. And they actually create a whole host of what's called regulatory peptides. A lot of them are neuropeptides, but regulatory is a more broader term that go in, and it's kind of like that pharmacy of chemicals that we have inside of the skin. We're able to activate all of those for hours after the treatment. You have these regulatory peptides that are going in and quenching inflammation and things like that throughout the body. So those are kind of those signaling molecules, a little bit more downstream from what we talked about with the RNA. These more regulatory peptides you can stimulate with that on-body type of treatment. So there is definitely a use for the on-body when you can, but it's also nice to throw it in your pocket and walk down the street as well.
So Linos, can the microbiome be specifically targeted to help heal gut dysbiosis, then combined with scans and infoceuticals? So, it's a technique that we didn't show, but actually, just like we were going down the back, you can just do it directly on the stomach, and yeah, it's really good for helping the stomach. And really, it's really the terrain. So it's. I know when I first came across all these ideas, that was a while ago, I guess 15, 16, maybe 17 years ago. And this idea that something electrical, like we're also used to thinking, well, you need vitamins, supplements, gut bacteria, etc. Or taking, well, I can't remember their name. Sorry, probiotics. But you can actually look at it from the complete reverse. So if you correct the terrain of the cell, and say you can literally correct the cellular structure by using harmonious frequencies, that basically your cells end up excreting toxins and then basically, if the terrain of your whole digestive system basically goes back towards homeostasis, the bacteria that sit inside your whole digestive system, they change as well. And I can give another example of that. So it's a pretty interesting bit of research that I read last year sometime. So, the bacteria that you pick up in your, if you did a stool sample, it completely changes within 3 days to the diet. So, if you suddenly ate loads of vegetables for 3 days, all the bacteria will totally change. If you ate a lot of red meat, it will totally change. I.e., it's the terrain. It's not that you've got, sure, you might have some whole load of bacterial overgrowth, but the root is through correcting the terrain. Obviously, you do that through diet, but you can also use things like miHealth and just literally, well, again, you can go down the spine. We didn't explain this earlier, but basically, coming out of the spine are your out of the spinal column are the nerves that then go to all of your organs. So, for instance, you can go directly on the spine and just to the sides of each spine around where all the digestive system is, and those nerves all lead into all of the areas of your gut. So you can actually access all of the gut through the autonomic nervous system just by targeting the spine. I mean, we didn't show that earlier, but it's a really, really good technique.
Yeah, all of those nerves are what connect the dermatomes to the different parts of the body, and that's how you get those reflexology connections, and how they can work on different organs from your hands and your feet and things like that. So, exactly.
Cool.
We have one that asked, how is that different from HeartMath? That was similar to the heart lock-in technique. I'm an heart practitioner for sure, and I did some training in HeartMath. They're very similar people. We're doing some very HRV things as well. They're an interesting company for sure. But it's my little version of getting ourselves kind of set and straight there. But definitely, they've done a lot of work in that brain-heart coherence center for sure.
Someone asked, as a preventative measure against the famous coronavirus, how do you schedule use of CFI and or immunities and in broadcast on the body? Well, there's a couple of things. One, I would suggest I think it's on the Energy for Life site and in the portal, which is the I can't remember what we call it. I think we call it the immune support pack, and that has the infoceuticals that we think are most suitable for that. But you can also do with the miHealth. So in the miHealth, you have CFI, BioCell, and immune ETs. You can it's not so much CFI. It's more BioCell, and the immune ETs would be the most suitable. So you can broadcast it, but as corona targets the chest, obviously the lung tissue, you can do, I say dermatomes in a way, it's a complicated word. Honestly, you can just go over the chest and around the spine, all around that area. So, again, just think you can use the miHealth symptomatically where it hurts, where you're getting inflammation, literally just use it there. And, BioCell is always a great one to fall back on, because there's a lot of modes, but honestly, things like general rejuvenation, acute, we've got acute mode, chronic mode, BioCell, peace, all these things, like you can basically use those if you don't know what to do. Oh, someone says I can't hear it. Hopefully everyone can hear us.
I still got quite a audience, so I think they're hearing us.
Yeah, I think so.
Someone asked, what was the setting for the neck lymphatics? And I used immune ETs to do that because it matches with our lymphatic star.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I was reading a question.
I just answered one. What do the different sounds from the miHealth coming from the miHealth during the treatment mean? So what Harry was describing was those asymmetries. So when you have a solid tone traveling, or a solid frequency traveling between two electrodes, there's going to be some sort of sound. That's what you heard as he was doing that treatment. And when it comes against tissue that is not in resonance with that frequency and doesn't allow that frequency to pass through it very easily, we call that a distorted area or an energetic blockage. And you will actually see a distortion in that because the ability for that frequency to pass through those electrodes is being hindered by the tissue that's in between them. So you'll actually want to identify those. Now, all the changes that you hear are not asymmetries, because sometimes we actually use multiple of the different carrier waves or the global scaling frequencies that we talked about earlier. The frequencies that are in tune, we layer our information over those frequencies, but those frequencies can, sometimes multiple frequencies support a specific set of information. And sometimes, like the chronic balance setting, actually rhythmically changes about every 30 seconds to a different tone. As you get good at using the device and use it a little bit, you kind of get the finesse, and you can kind of tell when the device just changes its carrier frequency and when you're dealing with an actual asymmetry. So that's what those different sounds mean, and you can use them to identify the target areas that you want to focus on inside of somebody's body and their dermis.
Yeah, someone else does one need of training to use the miHealth. So, I mean, in general, you generally ask your practitioner how to use it, but within the portal, what we call, I think it's on portal.nesthealth.com. So if you're a client of a practitioner, you can basically access all of the the manuals, and we have a whole bunch of videos. So basically it's all there. And it's all at different levels, so you can actually use it really, really easily just by using broadcast mode, and then it goes all the way through to all of these advanced techniques. But honestly, you don't need to use all the advanced techniques. Where are the immunities on the miHealth? Was that protection folder, wasn't it? Or was it general?
Well-being.
Well-being. There you go. Can you use miHealth directly on your heart and lungs? That's an interesting question. So yes, officially, if you have a pacemaker, you're not meant to use the miHealth over the heart. But I can tell a strange story that a practitioner didn't know that and was treating someone with a pacemaker. And anyway, I shouldn't say that, but basically, anyway, you can use it absolutely anywhere on the body. But if you have some electronic implant in your body, possibly the electronics would interfere with that. So I wouldn't use it over if you have some electronic implant like a pacemaker.
Yeah, and there's various heart conditions that can cause some fibrillation and flutters of the heart. Some people with PMF can experience that. Only our device is so low level that it's fractions of what would be coming off of your, say, cell phone. So if that person can utilize a cell phone without it causing any arrhythmias or any type of flutters of their heart, they should be able to use our device perfectly fine as well if there's any of that consideration. So.
Yeah, I mean, someone asked us if we eliminated the need for a medical license to be able to use it on body on clients that are required to purchase a miHealth when it first came on the market. Basically, it's registered as a biofeedback device. Each state, really just depends where you are in the world. Europe, Australia, Canada, it's basically over the counter. In the States, it's under basically you can buy it from a practitioner as a biofeedback device. So we don't sell it direct, but you can buy it from any practitioner in the States. And outside in other parts of the world, there's actually none of that, none of those restrictions.
And inside of the United States, you will need to be licensed to touch a client with an electrode. You can use the device personally as you see fit if you purchase that, but if you want your practitioner to work on you, then of course they do need to be licensed by their individual state and their individual.
And every state is a little bit different. So yeah.
Contact your practitioner, or if you are one, you can look at contact whatever regulatory body oversees whatever type of certification or license that you do have.
Yeah. So Richard asked, one of the questions asked via email was wondering what settings or modes are best to help to reduce inflammation. So I mean, in actual fact, everything in a way reduces inflammation. So I wouldn't necessarily think about it from that. Actually, probably know the most strongest is acute and chronic. Oh,
For sure.
yeah. Which actually chronic balance for sure. That contains emotional stress release. That's a great one. The inflammation. What else? Like in the mind ones, you've got peace. That contains a lot of heart drive and ESR. That will reduce inflammation a lot. You've got chill. Oh, you've got ESR literally there as well. So I would use any of those. But to be honest, overall, any of the functions are going to help with inflammation anyway, because that's just part of the healing process. All right, so many questions. Which one next? How far distance does the PMF emit? Well, it's actually a logarithmic type curve. So if you're right next to it, it's here, and then it sort of goes away. But it's not like a normal PMF map, because the main thing that we're broadcasting is just basically a field of information. But generally you can hold it like up to half a meter, 3/4 meter away. And because also this is a little bit into quantum, but intention also plays a factor. So the distance isn't so important, and it's not like you get it's not like it's a really strong magnetic field that's being emitted. Actually, the effect is all coming from broadcasting information. So it's actually not such a concern as if you were lying on a PMF bed and you want to know how many gals it will produce. So when in some of the miHealth settings, a display of blocks 1, 2, 3, and 5 are shown, a number can be selected. What is the selection used for? So in our next version of the miHealth software, there won't be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're actually getting rid of that. Why? Well, what it's actually doing from the physics point of view, it's basically just putting in 5 is 5 times more energy than 1. So if you had really thick skin and you couldn't feel it in 1, you could dial it up to 5 and 100% to feel it. But honestly, really for most 99% of uses, you can just leave it on 1. And then sometimes, when you're using big electrode pads and they have a much larger surface area, you may not feel it as much. So then you might, jump it up to 2 or 3 or 4. But that's really all it is. It's just the amount of energy per packet in a waveform without getting too complicated. That's pretty complicated. But we're going to remove it into all automatically in the next piece of software.
So we have one from Francis that says, if you connect the miHealth to hand grips and foot plates, what would be the best miHealth setting to charge all of your body's batteries? So yeah, you could do that, whether it's hand grips or even electrodes, socks, and gloves, things that we will most likely be carrying in the future. You could actually hook up 4 pins to all of them and even cross those electrical negative and positives through your hands and your feet throughout your entire body. So the best one that you would want to recharge all your body's battery would of course be BioCell, with its connections to source driver and cell driver.
Yeah, someone asked if they're very sick, can they tolerate more miHealth treatment or less? Cool. It depends what on earth's going on. So in general, and this basically applies to any type of therapy. So the more therapy you do, the more stimulation you're doing, you might get a bigger healing response, or you might get a bigger detox reaction. So generally it's always better to start slowly, but you can use it in that symptomatic way. For some reason I caught a stomach bug yesterday and I threw up 3 times and haven't slept that much, so I was a little bit off our game today and have a headache. But we just use it on our head. It'll help clear our headache. But I'm not sure I'm going to do it on my stomach right now in case that increases the reaction, just because we're doing a webinar. But yeah, in general, it's just like anything. You just go in slow, and it's the same with infoceuticals. Like when I was super sick 17, 18 years ago, all the first sets of infoceuticals I was taking, I got huge healing responses. Now I didn't mind that because it was better. Basically, well, I knew it was doing something, so that was great. And then over the years, obviously, with lots of experience with practitioners and their clients, some people do, they just want to go more gently. I know how to put it. It really depends on your tolerance level of how quickly you want to get better and how comfortable you are with responses. So I know Todd's in the same boat as me. He's had a lot of health challenges over his life. Are you into the just get it over with, or do you like going slowly?
Oh, I'm all about getting it over with. I say most of the Herkimer reactions that I've had are pale in consideration to some of the flares that I've had in the past. So none of that really, I would rather just get the stuff out of me and get it over with and move forward with my life. That's my opinion. You also don't want to do that too fast though. So you need to be in tune with yourself to know whether or not you're going overboard, because you do want to give the body the time it needs to heal and give it the time to rebuild the energy. You could send the body down all these pathways, but if you're not grounding, if you don't get out in the sun and live a bioenergetic lifestyle, you may not necessarily have all the energy. So when you combine those things with the corrective information, it's only up from there. You can only get better by adding more of those bioenergetic lifestyle techniques, the miHealth, infoceuticals, and so on to get you over that hump. But yeah, just give yourself time to rebuild in between and recharge those batteries so that you can use that energy for the healing process.
Someone asked, what's the difference between an infoceutical and miHealth setting? For example, like we have a nerve one on the miHealth and a nerve driver infoceutical. So, well, how would I put it? So, the reason something like nerve is on the miHealth is basically because they basically because when we were obviously wanting to address pain and things like that, obviously nerve pain is significant. So, but nerve driver infoceutical is more designed for basically helping generate smoother alpha and delta waves. So that they've all been made with a different basically a different reasoning. And if you're looking at things like the energetic rejuvenators, they're actually they're combinations of different resonant frequencies, different drivers, different integrators, and we basically made this basically sort of like compounding or making their own mini stars. So they're really particularly powerful. I don't know, there's so many. I mean, God, there's 50, I don't know how many. There's like 100 plus in the miHealth, isn't there? 72 in pharmaceuticals. So I probably can't explain all the differences, but basically we would, from the miHealth perspective, we're most concerned with just removing basically energy blockages, and for those specific functions that we're trying to target. And the infoceutical range, it's more to this overall philosophy of, well, we want to get the body field or all the organs to generate enough energy. We want the information to flow properly, which is the integrated system. And then of course you have the ETs for correcting the terrain, and you've got stars, which are combinations of those again. And so the infoceutical range is more this sort of, I guess it's like this overall philosophy that's very based on the scan, which is easy to do. And the miHealth just gives you this other ability to be more direct, and things like scar tissue or particular symptoms that are coming in, if that makes sense. But arguably you could use both of them independently, but honestly the overall system as a whole, using both is better, is a long way better. We really designed it all to use both.
All right, somebody asked, will the miHealth device work inside of its leather carrying case? Yes, the PMF will go through the leather, just like it'll go through your t-shirts and clothing and things like that, unless you had any type of like RFID blocking, wallets or anything like that in between you and the device. There could be some limitation there, or any type of shielding material that blocks EMFs, but other than that, it should go through leather and clothing and things like that perfectly fine.
Someone here. Maybe I should say, because there's this chat thing. We've actually been reading out of our Q&A box, so we'll go and look at a load of questions in the chat. But in preference, if people can enter it in the Q&A part, then we'll see the list. But I'm now going to the chat one. So one of their 84-year-old clients suffered a major stroke 3 years ago. It was extremely strong, spending 4 hours in the garden every day. That sounds pretty good. We're scanning her later today and she's excited about pharmaceuticals. Would miHealth have benefits to help her memory issues? I mean, it's the same thing, really, but yeah. And basically, if you're able to free up more of the energy blockages in the body, it's all going to help. But yeah, from an pharmaceutical point of view, like ES2 is particularly good. And obviously within the ER section, there's a whole bunch of ERs targeted at the head and the brain, which would be helpful too, absolutely. And actually, Todd almost showed it with the electrodes in the ears. It's a really interesting technique that you can put two, I know my hand's disappearing, that's so weird. Oh, maybe I'll go back. Does that come out? No, my hand's still disappear.
The two shungite.
Yeah, and you can get smaller ones too, but basically if you put them inside your ear, basically the wave goes straight through your brain, and it's really, really good for brain growth and memory and all that type of stuff. This is a little bit out there, and it's not something you can do with NES, but I'll say it anyway. You can actually microdose mushrooms and LSD, and it's amazing for dementia, and that will also regrow dendrites. Obviously, it's not something you can just buy, so you're on your own on that one. It's not a NES one, but honestly, if it was, if you had dementia, you would do well with that. But Google it. It's a really popular in Silicon Valley, microdosing for increasing all their memory. If you used it and someone had an issue, even if it wasn't caused by mental health, realize that they might decide it was the problem, be the cause of a lawsuit, as with anything in the field of health. I mean, how would I even answer that? So, I mean, we haven't seen anything like that happen, and obviously every state is a little bit different, but I can't remember the law that was passed in California like 10, 12 years ago, but it basically exempted pretty much most health professionals from those sorts of spurious lawsuits. But like with any lawsuit, you actually have to prove it. And with miHealth and pharmaceuticals, you're basically, well, literally, what are you doing? You're literally sending in positive information, which from a conventional point of view, they don't even believe. So yeah, you would basically have to get them to believe it to prosecute. Anyway, I don't know. I think you can email me on legal stuff. That's probably easier. She just received.
Somebody asked if it's safe to do the scan with a pacemaker. Yes, you could definitely scan and take in pharmaceuticals. The only contraindication would technically be the miHealth device.
Someone just said they just received a miHealth during this webinar and that it didn't come with a mini USB. Does it come with a charger? If I'm not mistaken, it always, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always.
If you bought it from the company, it definitely has a USB cord in there, and you absolutely just plug it into any standard USB charger. So if you didn't, just let support know, and obviously we'll send you one out. But I don't know, unless you got a second-hand one from somewhere else, I'm not sure. But you should have got a charger for sure. What else? Yeah, people are asking about like the notes and the slides and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, basically this will be uploaded into both the client and practitioner portal along with the slide deck for sure.
Somebody's asking if there are earbuds available that help to reduce EMF exposure during phone calls, as you were talking about raising the phone call up to your head and manipulating the structured water inside of your brain. So yes, you can actually see I'm wearing them at the moment. These are called tube headphones. If you don't need perfect like music quality and I just need to hear voices and things like that, they work perfectly fine. The little speakers are way down here and they limit the EMFs, and these little tubes just go up and into the ears. Of course, the quality isn't as good because the speaker is so far away from your actual ear and you're hearing something through a tube, but there are ways that you can mitigate these EMFs away from the more important aspects of your body, such as your head.
Oh, this is an interesting one. So someone asked about a fat setting in the well-being folder. Does this really work to lose fat? I'll tell you a funny story. So years ago, we went to, we were in Malaysia, and then this company called Causeway that owned the Times Square building in Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. And then the wife of the person who owned this public company, or a bunch of the shares of it, basically they wanted to lose weight, and they just said to us, look, we want you to make something that will make, this sound really rude, but make you shit, basically make people shit and lose weight and all this. And anyway, it's before Peter ever moved to England. So I rang up or emailed Peter and I was like, yeah, we've got to make, you know, some an infoceutical to help lose weight and stuff. So he basically made the information of a fat cell. We sent over like 100 bottles, and then all these women in this company got fat. And so unfortunately, you know, we basically optimized fat cells. So we'd optimize these fat cells to, you know, to take up more sugar and turn to fat. Like, oh God, I was like, Peter, that's not good. So anyway, so then we made another version, which basically based on a liver pathway that basically increases your liver's ability to metabolize fat. And then anyway, that's basically what's ended up in the miHealth. And then yeah, people have reported losing weight with it. Absolutely. So yeah, yeah, you could just, well, sorry, in the protocol, yeah, you would just use it on broadcast. If nothing else, it should be a good, you know, a good supportive function of the liver.
It can also really help out if you're utilizing fats as an energy source. If any type of ketosis, whether for therapeutic reasons, epilepsy and things like that, can also be very supportive. I found my ketone levels tend to skyrocket while I use the fat setting or fat metabolism infoceuticals.
If someone's wearing hearing aids, yeah, no, you can keep wearing your hearing aids. That's no problem.
Someone asked, why is lymph in the immune support infoceutical? I believe the infoceutical pack probably you're referring to. That's because the lymphatic system plays a critical role inside of our immune system and trying to get rid of all the toxins so that we can restore that cellular terrain and not have our immune system so burdened by these things.
Yeah. Someone said they feel intimidated using on body. Yeah, don't feel intimidated. I suggest just turn it on and just have a go on your hand. So actually, your hand is a super easy place to help you, because your hand contains every single reflex zone that corresponds to all of your organs in the body. I mean, so a really easy way to get to know it is literally just go up your hand, just keep it on nice low, and you know, you'll get used to it. And then do your other hand. You could do your feet, the bottoms of your feet if you like. And then, and obviously your second part of the question is, are there instructional videos? Yeah, there's loads of instructional videos, but yeah, you don't need to feel intimidated. You just turn it up till you feel it, and then turn it down a little bit so it's not painful, and enjoy. But yeah, there's nothing to feel intimidated about. I could tell you when we were making it, and we didn't quite know how strong a transformer to use, and we used some transformers that are put out, well, this, yeah, basically put out some transformers that put out about 7,000 volts, but a really tiny, tiny current. And I gave myself some shocks back 10 years ago, but you don't have to worry about it now. We've done all the R&D. It's all safe, even on level 5 at 100%. Like it'll feel super strong, but yeah, it's all good for you. So cool. You said there were loads of instructional videos. I don't know if we can screenshot. All depends on I don't know if you're a practitioner or a client, but basically if you're a practitioner, there's a miHealth section in the training bit on the education link at the top. Do you know off the top of your head, Todd, if you're in the client portal?
There is a miHealth section of the client portal that has a document there. I have an update to the client manual. Right now, there is a manual there. I do have an update that's a little bit more client-friendly, but right now, one's a little bit more practitioner-ish, but you guys get to utilize it, especially if you have a personal...
Can you make a note, Todd, to, yeah, we'll upload all these other miHealth videos in there, and or with you, Hannah. But yeah, we will make sure the miHealth section is nice and beefy if it's not. Hi, good afternoon, gays. Thank you for the webinar. Do you mean guys or gays? Okay, all right. I have a question. I have a question. miHealth, is that okay to use for epilepsy? Well, yeah, I mean, it all is. I mean, I basically recommend seeing a practitioner, basically, and they'll help you. Cool. All right.
I think someone's asking why we would eliminate the 1 through 5 for the practitioner. We're going to make it in
it's going to be automatic. Basically, it's automatic. Yeah, it's not being eliminated per se.
We'll just make it easier for you to utilize while you're using the device.
Yeah, we definitely need to put them in there. All right. Well, I think we're getting towards the end of the questions. So if there isn't anything else, we might start wrapping up, which is good. And then, yeah, obviously if you're, well, yeah, if you want other questions answered, I mean, the best is to go through your practitioner or on the Facebook group. Or you can probably do it on the Nest Health fan page and we'll be able to pick comments up like that. Perfect.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, Todd. Maybe I'll just ask Steve in the background, because I know you've been observing everything in the background. Is there some critical thing we've missed out, or some question we should have covered? Steve might have disappeared.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No, I'm here. No, I mean, there's only so many we can get through. There's 25 open questions, so.
Oh, is there? Oh.
Yeah, so we're just gonna have to either you keep answering, or we're just gonna have to cut it off, and then.
I'll do a few more. Okay, so what's the best saying to use? Bring down acute allergic responses. So there is, Todd will probably answer that for me. I can't remember what the function's called. What?
Food and well-being.
Food, yeah, it's called food.
Which can be used for a little bit more broader kind of allergy context than just allergic reactions from food. We just called it that because that's the most general use that it would be for in the well-being folder.
Yeah, someone asked if there's a function you think would be best for Lyme disease. Well, it's basically the same as for any disease. There really isn't any particular function. The best thing, honestly, is to have a scan and work with a practitioner, and then they'll take it they'll take it from there. Because obviously there's many levels of that. Steve, could you take over for 3 minutes? I'm going to get a glass of water and I'll be back.
I can take some questions too.
Yeah, and talk safe, so I'll be back. Cool. I'll be back.
Somebody asked if you can use the miHealth too much. So you can definitely use the miHealth too much, although as you start to use the device, you get really used to it. It's not a very, strong impulse because we're using very low level PMF. So it's not jarring to the body. You don't have to worry about any of the considerations with non-native electromagnetic fields that we talked about. It's very low power, so I even sleep with it all night long. I'll use it for, the majority of the day. Of course, I'm not, religious about it. I'm not constantly using the device or need the device, but when I have it and it's an opportunity for me to support myself and I think about it, then I throw the device on and I move on and go about my day. But there are times where you can definitely overdo it for a client, maybe somebody who's a little bit run down. They can feel a little bit of a healing response, a detox response, maybe get a little headache here or there. But usually they just want to feel tired. Your body wants to conserve energy for the healing process and not have you go doing all the things that take our energy that we don't need to take our energy, going shopping, with our sister, or, helping your brother-in-law with this muscle car that's been in his garage for 20 years. That's probably never actually going to get on the road. We do these things on weekends, on Saturdays, and they pull all of our energy away from us. So sometimes the body just wants to, come down and utilize that energy for the healing process. So usually people just feel a little bit tired when they first start using it, but you usually get used to that pretty early on and can utilize more longer form treatments. You could say, can you experience that healing response right away, or is there a delay? It can be both, depending on the certain part of the body that you're stimulating, what's going on there, and what are the potential reactions from that stimulation. So it would really depend on the setting, the location, and things like that. So then you have, when you sleep with it, where do I put it? I just put it underneath my bed, and I will put the screen facing down because I don't want the blue light affecting my sleep at all. And then I'll put the electrodes facing down from my head towards my feet. So that's the way that I put it on. I usually use something like BioCell. We do have a sleep function, but I don't recommend using that for the entire night. It's more meant to induce sleep rather than to sustain you and hold you there the entire time. You can wake up a little groggy if you use the sleep function for the entire night. I usually like it for a nice 20 minutes before you go to bed. So that's another good one. Some notes.
Any updates on voice recognition? God, that's a loaded question. We're working on the background. Obviously, at the moment we can do archetypes and elements, and but actually we've also been tying it to a lot of the scan. I don't want to make an announcement too early, but there's a lot of progress, and there might be some news soon on that. But I can't really preempt it because then I get in trouble and everyone else tells me off. What else? When we connect electrodes to our miHealth units, we don't feel any output. Is this normal? Often there's this in the bottom right hand corner. You basically just have to calibrate it. So you just need to calibrate the electrodes. That's mostly what it is when you can't feel something. Sometimes you might have a bad electrode, but generally it's just the calibration. Unless you have anything else on that, Todd.
No, more often than not, you just got to go in and calibrate it, and that's the issue there. Someone else asked, what's the benefit of Chinese cycles? So that's matches with the Chinese organ clock, and whatever time of day it is where on that clock it will start when you press start on the device. It is a 24-hour cycle because you have that full 24-hour clock, although it doesn't need to be used for that entire time. You could just use it for a couple minutes, 5, 10 minutes, even just 2 minutes, and sync yourself with that clock, and then you should tick forward accordingly the way you should until you pull an all-nighter and do something else that may throw off that alignment again, and you can use it to reset. This is another one that people do like to do all night long as well, because it was designed for more longer form kind of treatments. So.
Cool. Yeah, sorry, just yeah, no, we definitely have training videos. Honestly, it's just can't remember off the top of my head quite where they're all suited, but I'm going to review the client portal in comparison to the practitioner portal right after this. So we'll just make sure the client portal totally has every video, but we have a ton of online training for it. So we'll just make sure it's all in the right place. Most like Steve might be able to answer, Steve, because Steve's the head of education. All right.
Yeah, no, I'm just on mute. So we have a lot of material for the client in there already. So it's just a matter of finding out, is there something that is needed that isn't currently posted? I think more often than not, it's a matter of people not knowing that the training is there for them. So
how does a client access it? Just so they
I
know.
I believe it's under the little, there's like a graduation cap education icon.
on the top right.
It would either be there in the top right.
You know what?
Or
I can share a screen.
resources.
I can share a screen right now.
But is it as a client?
No, but it's the same principle, isn't it? I'll just show just for people. You can see my screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we go.
While this is loading, somebody asked what's this good setting for meditation, and it would really just depend on what your intention for that meditation. You could do a variety of the chakras, ESR, and so on.
Basically, there's the little hat. You click that, and then
That's miHealth.
Nest miHealth. Bang. I think that's basically the same in the client portal.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, then you have your videos, your manuals, all these different charts. Yeah, it's all there. But we will double check the client one to make sure it's as beefy as the practitioner one, but pretty sure it is.
And there are some more client-facing videos that I have created that are in the process of getting edited, and we will be releasing even more content than we already have for you guys. So there is some gems that have yet to be released that we'll get up there for you guys.
Yeah, and that general learning that you just showed is the same for the clients and practitioners.
Yeah, so can using miHealth be a substitute for the infoceuticals? Not, I mean, they're just different, honestly. It's like they're just different. I mean, the infoceuticals are directly, basically directly to optimize the information of the body field. The miHealth is more designed to get rid of energy blockages. But
yeah, the way that I like to think about that is more the miHealth is good for certain things, especially when you want to stimulate the skin and whatnot. When you're using it off body, it's a lot more like the infoceuticals, but the infoceuticals are very stable. So when you consume them, they hold their energetic signature and that corrective information, where you could have a very short miHealth stint, or maybe use the miHealth in something like an airplane, where I like to use the infoceuticals more to support myself then, because there's so much other EMFs with all the hundreds of other cell phones, all the equipment for the airplane, and you're in a giant metal tube. So there's times where the infoceuticals might be a little bit better than a lower level PMF device, but then those infoceuticals can't catalyze all those neurohealing peptides and do all that stimulation and biofeedback with the autonomic nervous system. So it really depends on what you're trying to do, and different circumstances, different things would be better to use, whether it's miHealth or infoceutical.
Yeah, and then the second part of the question was asking for like what they would do for blood pressure. I mean, 130 over 90 is not, I mean, that's not too far above normal. But basically, the ESR piece infoceuticals will all be really good. Same ESR and piece in miHealth. But basically, generally it'll be a stress related type thing. I mean, if you're in pretty good health and you're exercising and all of that, then it's probably stress related, and then obviously like meditating and using ESR, etc., should help.
Having a good full spectrum of minerals is always good as well. They're signaling molecules and little bioenergetic molecules being little minerals that can interact with electricity. So making sure that you have good mineralized water, not drinking reverse osmosis water exclusively and those types of things, and making sure you have the full spectrum of mineral content, not just sodium that likes to be packed inside of all of our processed foods. So. Is the typical length of time to run a miHealth? That would really depend on your intentions. There's times, like I said, I'll do BioCell or say Liberator all night long. And there's times where, you know, I would only use the energetic rejuvenators for their 2 minutes because they're a little bit more in therapeutic kind of settings. And I have run them a little bit longer and played around with using more than 4 of them at a certain time and things like that. And you do spread the energy resources of the body a little bit thin. So you want to focus that energy in a specific area so that you make sure that you get the job done. So as long as you're not going too crazy, you can kind of play with that as a practitioner. And of course, the tolerance level for different people is going to be different. So some clients you might be able to do very long form sessions with, and some people just need a couple settings at 2 minutes each, and that's what they can tolerate. So.
Got you. Yeah, actually, well, I'm just like looking through I'm looking through all the miHealth training. Yeah, so the miHealth section is a bit different to the, there's basically 2 sections. Sorry, there's 2 ways to access it. So within you've got the BWS Foundation and the Legacy course that has different miHealth information to that Nest miHealth page, Steve. So I think we should just tidy that up and remove the really old videos and just put in the newer ones. And anyway, we will sort that out for everyone. So good. Cool. I think that will do. Unless, Todd, do you have any other questions that you want to answer?
We covered most of them.
I think we've covered them all. Cool. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And I say, yeah, thank you. And if you've got other questions, then just email them in.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you. And stay safe, everybody.
Cool. Thank you.